Hey everybody, James here with Fish Room Fever, and today we are going to be going over some PVC basics. So we're going to be redoing a sump system. We're going to go over some do's and a couple of don'ts. This is definitely not the only way to do it, or not even necessarily the best way to do it maybe, but this is the way I do it, so I wanted to share it with you all, and I hope you enjoy it. Alright, so here are the fittings for today's project. All in all, it was under $15, including the 10-foot piece of PVC, which of course this is just a part of. All of my elbows and tees. It would have been even cheaper, but I had to go with a brass one of these. Normally you can find a PVC one that will slip on, but that was about $4 by itself, so that brought the cost up a little bit. The tool's not included in that. If you don't own a set of PVC cutters, I highly recommend it. It's probably the best $15 that you'll ever spend if you're going to be doing much, if any, plumbing at all, versus using a little handsaw. And we've got a tape measure, screwdriver for that little clamp right there. We have got our PVC cement. This is what I use. Never had any issues with it. I've been using it for a long time. Just make sure it's fully cured all the way before I actually put it in with any fish. But that's what I always use. And then we have got some good old plumber's tape, and that's going to go on this fitting right here. I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. And then we've got our drill, because we are going to be making a spray bar today, and then just a piece of sandpaper, and we're just going to use that to kind of rough up the PVC as we put it together and glue it together, but I'll show you that when we get to it. First off, let's go take a look at the actual project we're going to be working on, and then we'll start putting some pieces together, and I'll explain how I do it and why I'm doing it that way. So this is what we're working on fixing. Now there are no leaks, everything works just fine, but it was kind of one of those things. I did it with what I had on hand, and now we're going to upgrade it and do it properly, if you will. I am still leaving this flexible tube attached to the pump down there in the sump. So we're going to cut it about here, and I've got the fitting to hook that up. We're going to run PVC up into here. We're going to build a spray bar to go along here in the tank so that we can get good flow going across. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to tee it off and have water going into there. So basically the water is pumped up into the 40 gallon, and then it also will run up into these 3 tanks here. Some of you were looking and going, well, there are only 2 drains there. I actually didn't have any other tins at the time when I built this setup, and this is tempered glass on this one, so I couldn't drill it. A neat little trick you can do when you've got a setup like that is make one of these little PVC water bridges, and we'll do that in another video. But that keeps the water balanced out, and it actually drains this water from this tank over into this tank and then out there. But all of that ties in, runs back down, drains into the 40, then it runs down from the 40 into our setup there, which has got the filter pads and then bio balls and then lava rock underneath, and then gets pumped back up. So let's go back to the desk and take a look at what we've got going on and get this project rolling. Alright, so for the purposes of filming, I've already cleaned up a little bit. I've got my parts over here out of the way, except for the ones we are about to be working on. I've already measured a lot of the pieces out, so we're going to get started to place this together with that. But real quick, in case you're not familiar with PVC cutters, let me show you why you need a set of these. You could just measure out wherever you need it to cut, and then just like a pair of scissors, a lot easier than having to saw through PVC. We'll set those out of the way. So the first thing we're going to do is connect this barb into this PVC, and that way we can transition from that soft flexible tubing that we've got running from the pump and the sump into our hard PVC. So we're going to take our plumber's tape, get this right here, and we are going to wrap it in the direction that we're going to be threading it across those threads there. Let's get that on there. I always start at the outside and work my way in. This is going to give us a really good seal. And normally I would cut that, but you can just pull it off and still get it nice and flat. So we're going to screw that in there. And I will come back before I actually put this together, grab my set of pliers or channel locks, tighten that all the way down, but I want to make sure that everything has got a good fit before I go getting everything stuck in place, if you will. Next thing we've got is the piece that's going to go up to the 40 gallons. So here's where our flexible tube is running in. Then we're going to come up to here, and that's where the 40 gallon is going to be at. So when it comes time to actually put it together, we're going to use that sandpaper just to give that a little bit of a scuff up. So I like to take it and just wrap it around like that on the end. Just give it a little twist back and forth a couple times. That'll rough that up. And that's just going to help it mold together a little bit better. You don't have to do that, but if you've got sandpaper lying around, you might as well. Where we're going to go from there, and again, I'm just fitting this stuff together loosely so that I can make sure it's all going to sit how I want it to sit before I cement it all in place. The next thing that we would do, and I'm just going to smooth those down right beforehand, that way you're not having to sit here and listen to that sound on camera. So we're going to come up to a T. And what we're going to do from there, got a couple little pieces cut here. We are going to come out towards that 40 gallon aquarium over the top of it. And I have got 45s instead of 90s. And the reason for that is head pressure on that pump. So the more elbows that you put onto plumbing when you've got a pump that's pushing water up and out, the harder that pump's going to have to fight, and the more that water is going to get resisted trying to come through there. So by using these 45s instead of using 290s, that's going to help take off some of that pressure. So instead of it having to fight to go around both of those curves, it's going to come down to there. We're going to put that in there. And it's going to come down to here. So that's going to sit off into the aquarium, and we're about to hook up the spray bar. But a little trick when you get ready to put these together to make sure that they're lined up is you can just put them down on a flat surface and give them a push, and now they're lined up so that they're not wobbling around. So that's how we know that we have them lined up properly. Next thing we're going to do is, this is going to be our actual spray bar that sits in the aquarium. So currently, that's what we're looking at. Now I do have a PVC cap that we're going to install on here. So we're looking at that right there so far. And then coming up from there, we're going to add a small piece in. And we're going to add this valve. And the reason that I'm adding the valve is because I want most of the flow to be going into this 40 gallon aquarium. So this way I'll be able to adjust it once I get it going and get most of the flow coming to here, but still be able to get some flow up top without having to put in any type of crimp or pinch like you could do in a flexible hose. So now that we've got that part worked out and our pieces are cut, I want to show you how to get a straight line on PVC, because we're going to be drilling holes in that to make it a spray bar. So the easiest way to do that, get the cap back on it there. There we go. The easiest way to do that, you can do this in a door frame as well, but if you've got a desk, just pull that drawer out a little bit, and you can set it on the desk and just hold it in place. Take a pencil, run it right along that edge. I don't know if you'll be able to see it as well as I could see it there, but that gives you a nice line down the PVC for you to be able to make a straight line for your spray bar. So what I'm going to do is use a smaller bit at first, because we can always make the hole bigger, and I don't know exactly how much flow we're going to be pushing out. I don't want to make the hole so big that the water just comes out and spreads right there at the bar. I want it to get some pressure going, that way you can push the water across the tank. So I'm going to put a hole about every ½ inch. So I'll go through here with a tape measure. I'll get those holes drilled, and then I'll be right back with you. That way you don't have to listen to this sound constantly. Okay, so just to show you if you're not familiar with this method, this is how I'm marking it out. I just took my tape measure, extended it out past where I needed to work, and then it works out perfectly that the cap sits at 1 inch, so I just went a ½ inch out, and I'm marking it that way. So just in case you're not familiar with marking out PVC, That's the easy way to get on that 1/2 inch mark versus trying to mess with it or lay the tape measure underneath it or anything like that. And you can just come along and you can cross hatch it right over your line that's running this way. So now I have a center point for all of those holes that I'm about to drill. So I'm going to finish this up and I'll be right back with you. Alright, so we've got the holes drilled out in our spray bar. Went a little off center on a couple of them, but figured it'd be fine. I wasn't too worried about it. I just wanted to get it done really quick. Now you have two options. If it turns out that this is not permitting enough flow to come through this spray bar, we can either make the holes larger, or one of the things that I like to do, especially for the setup I've got going in there, is we could actually take and do a second line of holes, and then we could do every 1/2 inch, or we could just do 1 inch. That's going to give us some additional places for that flow to get out. That's also going to give us some different angles of flow in the tank. If I had to guess, I'd say we're probably going to end up doing that, in which case I'll probably come back maybe an inch below it, because I'm going to have this angle where the water is basically coming out. If I can shove this in a hole to show you. I'm going to want the water to come out kind of at an angle like that. So I may come back and have one more set that's shooting downward more, but only do 1 inch instead of every 1/2 inch. We've got that done. So I'm going to put this together. I'm going to take it to the tank, and then I'm going to get a measurement for our PVC that goes up to that rack of 10 gallons on top, and I will be right back with you. Alright, so I got everything measured out, kind of pieced together the way that I had it planned, and I don't like it. So let me show you what we're going to do instead. So here's what I've decided to do. I am going to keep that part of the plumbing that I already had installed. It works perfect. It flows exactly the way I want it to. It has the adjustability that I want, and I just decided I wanted to keep it. I had it replumbed in the new way and I didn't like it as much, so I came in here, did that tee off, replaced where this was. We're still going to use that barb setup to run into there, and then I teed it and elbowed it over to here to our spray bar. I also built a new spray bar because I just didn't like the way that one was flowing. So this one I have only got holes on this end. That way we're getting a whole lot of flow right across the front of these caves, which is exactly what I was going for. And I can still get some adjustability to it, but I can still get the flow that I want, just like you're going to get a lot of glare there, just like I've always had it. A lot of dirty tank. I can still get it exactly how I want it. So the lesson here is don't be afraid to change your mind once you've gotten into a project or improvise on the fly. I'm going to like this a whole lot better. As you can see, that's still leaking. This has not been all sealed up. I simply put it together and have been letting it run to show you what I'm going to do. But yeah, don't be afraid to change your mind partway through a project if it's going to work better a different way. So let me get all this pieced apart and we'll start putting some stuff together, and I'll show you the basics of hooking up PVC and making sure you're not going to have drips. Alright, so here's what we ended up actually creating. We're going to attach it to the rest of the plumbing that you just saw. So I've gone through and I've taken the sandpaper around every place that we're going to connect the PVC. Now I'm not going to glue the PVC together from probably this point down. That's the spray bar section right there. And the reason being is this is going to be over the water anyways. So that will allow me to take all of this off and to be able to service this, get a pipe cleaner up in there, and not have it all attached. Of course, I can take the spray bar out and be able to service it, clean it out. So I did go ahead and tighten this down. Go ahead and bottomed it out, so it is good on there. What we're going to do now is just take a little bit of this stuff. Now, if you've not used this before, it does come with a cotton ball brush on the inside there. And we do not need a whole lot, especially not for this 1/2 inch PVC. So we're just going to run a little bit around there. Don't worry if you make a little bit of a mess. I just try not to get it on the inside. And if you do, that's why I keep a rag around. we are just going to give it a little twist and push. That on there. Again, use that rag. You got some Q-tips, you can use that, those for that Q-tip. But I'm not too worried about how it looks because we're actually going to spray paint this. I do want to get it off the desk though. So we're just going to continue onward like that. Go ahead and unhook that. And again, I already sanded that way y'all didn't have to listen to that wonderful sound. Take a little bit along there. And we're going to give that a nice little push and twist until that bottoms out. And that's already tightening down in place, causing a nice good bond. So this is where that other PVC is going to go in. It's attached. I will use PVC cement on that when I do finally bond them all together, but I've actually rigged the old system back to where it's flowing currently. That way I'll have plenty of time to get this video done and get these spray painted and still have water flowing through all of those tanks. So that one's coming out the side. You do want to do this in a well-ventilated area. Stuff does not smell good. My youngest one calls it that nasty stuff. Are you going to use the nasty smelling stuff? Yes. Yes, I am. A little bit on there. Trying to do this more speed, less precision. And as you can see, that's already got that locked in place just that quickly. Mess a little bit. Now, what I want to do for this one is I want to make sure that it ends up lined up straight. So I'm going to lay that down on the desk like that and attach it. And this stuff, you want to make sure that it's liquidy. I've got another jar. I actually bought this brand new one because I opened my other jar and it was really more like a gel than a liquid. And that's no good. So, and it even tells you on the bottle, I do believe, not to use it if it looks like that. So we're going to stick this on here, give it a twist, get it lined up before it bonds into place. And I just did that backwards. Okay, hopefully it's recording this time. I just recorded showing you how to fix the problem that I just created. Did not record. So, what I did in a nutshell is this right here, I accidentally glued it where this where this 90-degree elbow needed to be. So this piece was right here. I took the pipe cutters, I cut it off. That way I could attach that there, and we can still have, that's a spare piece, but we can still have it exactly how we needed it to. So, problem solved. I wish that it had recorded me showing you how to fix that because, you know, it just goes to prove the point. It's really, really late, and I was paying more attention to audio, video, and lighting than I was the actual project. It happens, but you can fix it. I did, of course, make sure there was room for me to cut this pipe down because it was about that much longer. But just pay attention to what you're doing and you'll be okay. And if you screw up, most things are easily fixable. So I went through, again, the end of this was attached to the end of that. I just snipped it off to the length that I needed. That way I could come back on the other end. And all that's good to go. I'm going to go ahead and get it painted, let it dry overnight. And tomorrow we will get this hooked up. I'll glue in that top piece, let it cure, and then I'll hook that pump back up and we will be good to go. It happens. You know, don't freak out if you screw something up, or again, don't be afraid to change your direction mid-project. I think I'm going to like this a lot better than the original design that I had when I intended to redo the plumbing. But you know, it is what it is. So I'll get this painted and we'll be right back. Alright, so here's the end result, and again, apologies for the water noise, but this is the louder fish room of the two. As you can see, we've got some really good flow going through here. Get in on those plant pieces and stuff moving around. I may angle it down just a little bit more so that it's hitting directly at the front, but you can still see a nice amount of flow straight across the front of those caves, which was the plan. Let's see if we can actually get a shot of the flow. So yeah, so you can see it coming in there, and there, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this one because I do have that air stone in there, but you can kind of see at the back. So exactly the flow I want. I'll show you what it looks like on the back side. So I did leave the flexible hose a bit longer, that way I could pull that pump out without having to disconnect it from the PVC. We've got that hose clamp on there on the brass fitting. Came up to here, showed you all the new design there. Managed to work it out just perfect with the new spray bar that I made. Had less holes in it to get the flow just right. And again, I kept this top part because the flow is just perfect on that. So we basically just tied right into it and we're good to go. Let everything set and cure and all that wonderful stuff. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed it. Now this is the zebra pleco colony tank. So I've got another video that will be coming out in the not too distant future. Most of it's already filmed, but that's why it's got that cave structure, and that's why I wanted that flow running across the front of those caves. But I appreciate you all watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned some things to do and some things not to do. Do me a favor, if you haven't already subscribed, hit the like button. Until next time, keep your fish healthy, keep yourselves healthy, catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care, everybody.